Hey y'all, Mike with Cardboard Kingdom. Welcome back to another Disney Lorcana video. Today we're going to be discussing how Collectible is the first chapter in Japanese for Disney Lorcana. A lot of you guys have asked my feedback on this or my thoughts on it, and so I'm gonna do a video about it. And then I would ask that you guys share your thoughts in the comments as well. Do you have the similar outlook, different, and why? Let me know your thoughts. So first and foremost, I will preface this by saying that the Japanese version of Lorcana excites me a lot as a collector, as just an individual. I have ties back to the Japanese like base set, for example, from Pokemon from when I was a kid. My local card shop, which is like, especially back in the 90s, like I'm sure most card shops were like, this card shop didn't have Magic that I remember. It was sports. It was all sports cards, sports memorabilia, but they did have some Pokemon as we were kind of coming of age and Pokemon was a thing. And I remember getting some Japanese like base set cards from there. Nothing hollow, nothing crazy, just commons and uncommons. Like I had an Onyx, I had a Diglett, I had a Farfetch'd, and I actually still have some of those cards today. Pretty hard to tell with my green screen, but it's a Japanese old back Onyx from my binder as a child. Now, I lost the majority of my cards. I had one like weird like leather little like case that had like 5 cards in it from when I was a kid. My parents got rid of the rest. I don't think that they knew that thing had cards in it, or probably would have got trashed. That's a story for a different day. I've told it before, but nevertheless, so whenever like I remember how excited I was and how cool I thought they were. Like a different back, different language. Like I valued them a lot more than just like my traditional like base set cards, because base set was everywhere, but like Japanese, like no one had that stuff. So I just thought it was really cool. So I love the idea of getting a box or a case and opening list with my daughter. It's the first chapter. First chapter is always gonna hit. Amazing set, amazing art, like the historical like base set of Lorcana. Like first chapter always hits. Anytime you open a first chapter pack now, like take a second and soak it in. Like it's iconic, and give it the reverence it deserves. But that makes me very excited to share that experience with my daughter, right? That's like an educational opportunity, historical opportunity. Like there's a lot that goes with opening the first chapter in Japanese. So me as a collector, definitely want to get my hands on some. I was supposed to have 2 cases, and the seller, some personal stuff happened and it's on hold, but I do expect to still get some Disney Lorcana first chapter in Japanese. So that's kind of my thoughts on it, my tie to it, and ultimately I will be getting some. Now, in terms of short-term price action and long-term and whatnot, we'll talk about that a little bit here. Right now, Enchanteds are anywhere 20 to 25, maybe 30% cheaper than their English, counterparts. So right now you can get an Elsa in Japanese for $5.97 or best offer. There's also some available for $5.92, $5.99, etc. And English Elsa right now is about $800, give or take. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of price tiers, 20-25% discount. I think that I could see these now. Keep in mind, all language variants of Disney Lorcana are tournament legal, so I could easily see some of these enchanteds from Japan, if they are going to be 20 to 30% cheaper. I could see people start to use these in their decks as like proxies to still have enchanteds. But if the English counterparts are going to have a little bit more value to them, I could see those finding themselves more permanent places in binders, graded slabs, etc., and people using the Japanese variants as kind of, for their decks, because a lot of people play with enchanteds, and that's not going to go away. And so I think this might be a cheaper alternative to kind of protect some of that longer collectability of the English cards and play with some of the Japanese cards. So I could definitely see that come to fruition. I do expect them to stay at that kind of 20 to 30% cheaper margin, because this is a very unique use case where this is an English first company, English first speaking TCG with a worldwide IP that is going from the west to the east. Every other big IP and big TCG is coming from the east to the west, apart from Magic, but Magic doesn't have anywhere near the IP that Disney does. Obviously, Disney's already big in these countries, right? The mouse is already worldwide. So this is a unique scenario where we haven't seen this dynamic play out before. So I think that's just interesting from a macroeconomic perspective. At the same time, I think that it's going to depend. Like, what I don't want to happen is people like me buy all the boxes and then they can't get the organized placing off the ground in Japan because there's just not enough. Knowing Ravensburger, I would assume that they've solved for that and there's plenty of first chapter to go around. But I want to avoid that, right? And so look, it's a double-edged sword. I think that ultimately that problem resides with Ravensburger. If someone wants to collect the card and buy the case and open it or collect it or whatever, like I think that that's on Ravensburger to solve for it. I wouldn't advise anyone like, hey, we got to be, good people. We can't buy their product. Like, look, it's a free market. If they want to sell it and you want to buy it, then that's fair game. But I just hope that that doesn't happen to the extent where now we're all sitting on a bunch of first chapter cards in Japanese and cases and whatever, and there's none over there, and they can't do tournaments, for example. Like I don't think that that's going to happen. It's just a fear that I have now. I've heard boots on the ground at the first chapter release or let's just say Lorcana release in Japan, that thousands of people showed up and that it was very well received. There was a lot of hype around it. People were opening packs, buying the first chapter, etc., which is very good. But they admittedly said like, hey, it's got nothing on any of these other TCGs. Like it's gonna have to do a lot of work to break through, which I think is fair, right? I mean, like you can't compare Lorcana to Pokemon, even in English, let alone Japan, right? So I think that all makes sense, and it's gonna have to stand the test of time. But I think overall it will be collectible. I think overall anything first chapter is going to be a sound investment, or it's something that at least makes sense. First chapter is one of the few sets that no matter what, it's been bought up and gone up relentlessly since it came out. Obviously you have a reprint that takes it back down and then it gets bought back up again immediately. Not immediately, but over time. And so I think that anything first chapter will be a sound, investment or purchase on your end. Plus, like I said, I have a ton of ties with these like Japanese old back cards. I love it to death. I also, and this is the here. Let me finish my initial point, and then I'll rant for a little bit on how much I hate English Pokemon here in a second. But let's do here. I wanted to look at the prices for for a case. What I will say about this, so like right now there's cases available on TCG Player of Japanese first chapter for $888. That is about half the price of an English speaking case for $1,500, a little bit less than half the price. But it's about $65-ish to $70 per box because you get 15 boxes inside a case of Japanese first chapter. Let me click on this listing here and see if they have details on it. Uh-oh, why do I keep doing that? I wanted to click on their actual listing here. Let's do this. There we go. Okay. So 15 boxes per case, 16 packs per box, and 6 cards per pack. So, 15 boxes divided by 888, I think that puts it roughly around $70. But there's only 16 packs per box, and there's only 6 cards per pack. So that kind of gives you the breakdown of what to expect in this. I don't like it being this expensive already, to be honest. I will probably bite the bullet and pay this price at some point, if not higher. But my hope is that it goes down, whether that's through a reprint or restock, right? I'm sure Ravensburger, look, they've seen what happens with the first chapter now. So they know that, like, hey, we probably don't need as much Inklings, but we probably need a lot of first chapter, right? They've probably solved for that now. At least I would hope they would. So I would say that this price is pretty strong already, unfortunately, in terms of value. But at the end of the day, I probably will still bite the bullet. So $888 is the going rate. I don't think it's much cheaper at all on... Do I have any... Yes. So here's the first chapter on eBay for a sealed booster box case. You have some different listings here. They've got like the Trove. It looks like they've got the gift set, a box. Wait. Oh, that's... Okay, that's English. Sorry. I thought that was Japanese. Here we go. You got 10 boxes for $540 for $54 a box. That's not bad. You have $65 a box on list listing. You have a case for pretty much $900. So I think that's a fair market value in terms of what's on TCG Player. So that's not bad. But it's just a little bit more expensive. It's a little bit expensive for my blood. But overall, I think it's, the single cards 20 to 30% cheaper in the short term. In the long term, we're going to have to see just how much is out there. How much does it take in Japan? And, just what does that look like overall? So that's kind of my short term and long term thoughts on the first chapter and other language variants. I think Japanese will be more valuable than Chinese, but the Chinese kind of same test there, right? There's a chance that Mickey Mouse obviously has a wide presence in China. There's a chance that it could take a better foothold there, which then causes the first chapter Chinese variant to be more expensive than Japanese based on a simple supply and demand. So we'll see what shakes out there. What I will say, and this is irrelevant, so that's kind of my thoughts on that. And then just one kind of point this rant on just English Pokemon and the current state of everything there in combination with like some things that have happened with Lorcana. So whenever the Moana 2 movie promo was announced, if you guys remember, that was they announced originally that it was going to be available in Europe, I think specifically in like France. And then they announced that Japan was going to be getting the first chapter, and in that announcement they mentioned they were also be getting the Moana 2 movie premiere promo. And at that time there was no word that English was going to get it. And that like triggered me because I have forever resented the TPCI, the Pokemon Company International, rather than the Pokemon Company, because the Pokemon Company in Japan does so much unique like art, and from a collector's point of view is just like vastly superior than anything that the TPCI does, and it's infuriating. Like for example, they do all sorts of unique promos, they do unique arts, they do unique collabs with like the Mario Pikachus and stuff like that. Like they've done so much throughout the years. Like they know a worthwhile promo, they know like what people like, but TPCI just either can't or chooses not to do it. So like 151, we get less art than them. They get the Master Balls, we don't, right? So they have just more collectability inherently. They have more rarity, they have more scarcity, etc. More to master, more to challenge. In America, we just get like prismatic evolutions printed, you know, probably like for the next 6 years until there's like 100,000 of the Umbreons out there and like nothing's collectible. Like look, right now Pokemon's in a weird spot where demand is absolutely insane. Obviously, that's a good thing for Pokemon overall. That's a sign of an extremely strong market. Part of me, I have this like 90s era junk wax feel from baseball. Like, I don't know. I've just been looking at the pop reports for some of the stuff in Pokemon, and it is absolutely absurd. This is the Moonbreon from Evolving Skies. There is over 15,000 copies of this card in mint condition. Over 20,000 have been graded. How many Moonbrowns do you think have been graded versus a raw? Like, is that number, like, is it 1 in 5? Is it, have 20% of the Moonbrowns been graded? Is it 40%? Is it half? I don't know. I would probably lean somewhere around like 20%. Like I just feel like between Japanese and English Pokemon, there's like just going to be hundreds of thousands of these chase cards out there. And once things calm down and we're not in this major, cycle where there's so much upward pressure, like stuff's just going to come down dramatically. Like the fact that new Umbreon was selling at like 2,000 and now it's still above 1,000. Absolutely insane. That card is going to be printed for years and years on end. And look, that there's a ton of demand for the game, but there's not as much collectability when there's this much demand and it's being printed and there's just so few promos and variants and things like that. Like it's the promos are really the only thing that's gonna have long-term collectability in my opinion. For some of this stuff, like these sets are just gonna be printed unbelievably, and that's once again just a testament to Pokemon. So I've just always been jealous of what happens in Japan on the Pokemon side of things versus what happens on English, and that Moana 2 promo being released just like triggered my like Japanese superiority complex of like, what are we doing? Like, why are they getting the promo? Now obviously we ended up getting it, and so I have no issues there now, but like as soon as they start to signal that like that market is getting any sort of priority over the English speaking market, like that will be my sign that like, nope, this isn't it, and I'll have to just collect commons and uncommons and move on or something. I don't know, but that's just kind of my thoughts on that. That was kind of unrelated, and like I said, it's not a concern. I shouldn't have sat there and ranted about it for 5 minutes because they did release the promo here, but it was just a quick little trigger I had. So with that being said, that is my thoughts on the first chapter in Japanese, how collectible it is, and where I see the prices going. Give me your thoughts in the comments, and we'll be back with another video soon. Bye, guys.